views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm Daren Jaime, and today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, we'll update you on the latest news in the world of politics. Then, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We'll learn more about Kingsbridge Heights Community Center's Changing Futures campaign, holding their upcoming T.E.A.L Gala to raise awareness. And afterwards, Flourishing After Abuse is an event geared towards empowering and educating women on toxic relationships. We'll learn more a little bit later on in the show. And then next, we'll catch up with the creators of 1.5 Million, a social impact documentary aiming to increase literacy rates right here in the borough of the Bronx. Then after that, we're going to sit down with Majora Carter, the co-owner of the first hip-hop cafe in the Bronx, Boogie Down Grind Café. And then Cultural Innovation Group has a mission, empowering our community through art, civic, and community engagement. We'll speak about it a little bit later on in the show. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, April the 3rd. Can you believe we're already in April? Well, yes, we are. And you're watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is now being seen simultaneously in MNN in Manhattan. You can stay connected to us via Twitter at BronxNet TV and on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, a lot has certainly been going on through this past week. We'll take you through it now with some Bronx updates. The New York State Legislature and Governor Andrew Cuomo reaching an agreement, signing off on a $175 billion budget. The deal includes changes to the cash bail system, new tax on high-end homes, and new plans to charge motorists driving into Manhattan's most crowded parts. Other budget highlights include a ban on plastic bags from retail stores, $25 billion for MTA upgrades, a new paid 3-hour break on Election Day, and more. Well, in other news regarding the budget, legalization of marijuana was not included in the budget. But just Monday, Governor Cuomo insisted on WAMC radio, New York will pass a law legalizing recreational marijuana before the legislature adjourns in June. Now, advocates worry that a standalone bill will be tougher to get through the legislature. And later, we're going to catch up with our political expert, Michael Benjamin, who has more on the New York State budget, and he'll break down what this all means for the borough of the Bronx. In other news, apart from deadlines and academic pressures, college students face a number of adversities. Many become food insecure and even face homelessness. Professor of Higher Education Sarah Goldrick-Robb visited Lehman College, sharing her story on the reality many students face and why they struggle to afford the most basic necessities in food. BronxNet correspondent Darissa White brings us the story.
Struggling college students seem to always be a concept that people have always made light of, but new research presents this is no laughing matter.
Today's college students are working in extremely large numbers. Even so, many of them are still unable to make ends meet.
A new research study from Temple University's Hope Center shows City University of New York students face food and housing insecurities regularly. Titled Real College and led by Dr. Sarah Goldrick-Robb, the Hope Center surveyed nearly 22,000 students at CUNY's 19 campuses and found 48% of CUNY students didn't know where their next meal was coming from.
I think the most upsetting part is that we find that very large numbers of students are dealing with food and housing insecurity, but relatively few of them are getting support.
Although CUNY has made efforts to support students with food pantries on half of their campuses, Dr. Goldrick-Rabb says the stigma around the pantries prevents students from utilizing them.
Some of them are not really comfortable accessing those supports, again, because people have thought of college students as privileged, and that's how they're trying to behave.
Like Sybil, an art major, who says she wouldn't go to a food pantry because it's presented like a handout.
It's still a bit of a pride thing to want to go because you're not here you don't want to feel like you're getting a handout, so kind of makes you not want to go.
Sybil says there have been plenty of times she sacrificed food for school.
A lot of the time, the art supplies that are needed for each of these classes that I'm taking can get pricey, so it's either have the supplies I need for class or have enough money to get food.
And what's more alarming are students that are dealing with both housing and food insecurity. At least 14% of CUNY students surveyed say they are dealing with some form of homelessness.
Oftentimes they're couch surfing, and that means that they're going from place to place. Maybe one week they stay with someone, maybe another week they stay somewhere else. This makes it very hard to focus on school.
Dr. Goldrick-Rabb says more state funding is a way to solve both housing and hunger issues.
First, at the state level, there is a funding issue with regard to CUNY's resources. Over time, the resources available per student to make sure that students have the support that they need, it's gone down. The other fact is that a lot of these students have children, and childcare is incredibly expensive. So what do you do when on the one hand you need to buy your books and on the other hand you need to pay for childcare? Well, you probably pay for the childcare, forego the books, and maybe fall short of money for food.
We reached out to the Vice President of Student Affairs for Lehman College, Jose Magnaleno, who says increasing financial aid and providing targeted financial support to student programs will help relieve many student financial concerns. But it begins with changes to legislation. Reporting for BronxNet, Darissa White.
And thank you, Darissa. And that's all we have for the Bronx Updates. We'll be right back with more Open coming up after this.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
I guess sometimes things just happen. Devastating things. Your whole world changes in an instant. That's what happened to me the day my mother had a stroke. I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke fast.
We're back here on Open. Our next guests are producing a short documentary highlighting the literacy crisis within the borough of the Bronx. They're calling it 1.5 million. Before we introduce them, let's check out a little bit of 1.5 million.
In the 1970s, the Bronx burned. It took one of the nation's largest urban rebuilding efforts to revitalize its communities and rejuvenate its population. Today, only one independent bookstore exists in the Bronx, That's right. A population of 1.5 million has one local bookstore. The Bronx yearns for more education hubs. It begins with the belief that it's right to invest in the future of Bronxites. We no longer have to answer the question, does the Bronx read? We do.
And joining us now in studio, telling us more about 1.5 million, our executive producer, Gregory Hernandez, and associate producer, Edwin Torres. And guys, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I shared a little bit, you know, I think for what you guys are doing is really bridging a gap, because when you talk about literacy here in our borough, I've done stories, we've done stories about no real bookstores, Barnes & Noble's out there in Co-op City, the last entity that we had, that's snatched. And, you know, you guys now want to take this and really capture it and take it to a higher level. Give us a little bit more about, you know, what was behind this whole thing.
Sure. So the Bronx was the last borough to get a Barnes & Noble and the first one to be completely without one. So in this documentary, we're highlighting the stories of what Bronxites are doing. In 2 words, I can sum up this documentary: Bronx resiliency. So we do have libraries. We don't have bookstores, although now we have the Lit Bar, which was opened by a Bronx native and resident. We had to develop a literacy ecosystem here, and we're highlighting what Bronxites are doing to create that solution.
How long has this been in the works?
Well, I got on in January, but Gregory's been working on it for some time, and I discovered him through Instagram, and I saw what he was doing, and, you know, another Bronx filmmaker, knowing that, you know, you can't do this alone, so I wanted to participate and be a part of it. So, you know, it was really great to work with him. And, you know, what he's doing is, like, really cool, because I live here, and I used to have fond memories at that Barnes & Noble. And then when it went away, now it's like a clothing store.
Yeah.
And now it's, like, you know, completely different. And now I don't have a place where I can just purchase a book.
I mean, think about it. I mean, well, it's not just, you know, you have Barnes & Nobles, right? And you said, dang, that's the only thing we really had for a long period of time. You take that out. You talk about the borough of the Bronx, 42 square miles, the borough of the Bronx, and you got 1.5 million people that don't even have access to a bookstore. What has been the response as you go out and do these interviews and prepare this short documentary? What has been the response of people that you've been coming into contact with?
Sure, yes. So the response has been one of anger, but then also taking the time to think about it, put it in perspective. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is an opportunity to what? Go on an upward trajectory towards success. We know we lost this. Maybe we don't need Barnes & Nobles after all, because they said they would return within 24 to 36 months. I believe we're around month 29 or 30. I don't know if they're going to make it. But it is an opportunity for Bronxites to say, okay, let's take a step forward. So we've interviewed people who have started community libraries, little free libraries, Bronx book fairs, Bronx book festivals. We've attended conferences, and obviously Noel Santos with the Lit Bar. So it's an opportunity for Bronxites to say, okay, homegrown, ownership, let's take into account what we need to do to, once again, end this crisis.
Where are you taking it from here?
And well, basically, I've been helping him contact people and really just discover initiatives of people bringing more reading and literature to the Bronx. And basically, the point of the documentary is to really just highlight, you know, the response to not having a bookstore, and basically showing off the initiatives of bringing more books to, and showing that it's more important not just for, like, you know, doing essays or like taking tests. It's important for, like, life and leisure, you know, and just like living and, like, you know, trying to bring attention to the joy of reading a book. So what I've been doing is working with Gregory and just discovering all these initiatives, some that are right up the block from where I live. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool to just see this, like, happen. It's really evolving. And what we also want to do is get people together and, like, form a new plan to, like, really make reading and literature a mainstay in the Bronx.
When we talk about literature being a mainstay in the Bronx, there's a lot of people out there who have this desire, right? And I know that you did the work. You're out there, you're interviewing people, you're doing the background. For everybody that does this kind of thing, there's this wow moment while you're doing your work, mm-hmm. right? That you talk to somebody that becomes this wow moment. What was that wow moment for you in all of this?
A year ago, walking into the space for the Lit Bar and just seeing it barren there and talking to Noelle about how she's going to design the store and saying to myself, wow, this will be walking distance from me. A bookstore will supplement the library for me. Getting to hug Noelle, shake her hand, talk to her, and then also talking to our other collaborators. Those are the wow moments for me, because you're actually talking to people who are from here, care, and will actually make a difference. And having that, knowing that it's going to be in your story, it's a wow moment. As a filmmaker, it's like, yeah, this is truth. And you know, because it's a documentary. It has to be informative, but it has to be entertaining. So you know, all right, that's a wow moment. This is going to be big.
Absolutely. So for people who want to know how they can see this documentary, where they can see this documentary. Let's give them the info.
Sure, yes. So we're in production now. We're going to wrap principal photography in June. Then we'll be in post-production editing for 4 months, and then we're going to premiere it at the Lit Bar. Our target date is October. Our plan is to do screenings at the Lit Bar, premiering there, and then going from the South Bronx to the North Bronx. We also want to screen it in film festivals and obviously on BronxNet. So that's the plan.
Yeah. And so 1.5 million people in the borough of the Bronx.
Estimated population.
No, that's estimate. We know it's a whole lot more than that. 42 square miles, no independent bookstores, and 1.5 million is a documentary that's being done. And we've got Gregory Hernandez, executive producer, Edwin Torres, associate producer, working on the film, also here with us here today. Before we leave, I want you to just give a little bit of your perspective in doing all this work, in seeing this. What would you say to elected officials, those people out there, about the importance of literacy and what we need to be seeing out here today?
Literacy and poverty often intertwine. When we talk about a literacy crisis, we talk about solving it. You need a community solution. So you actually have to talk to the people on board. Not just the community board people, but people who are actually starting initiatives. I talked to politicians. We've interviewed Rafael Salamanca. We're going to interview the Bronx Borough President in a couple of weeks. Oftentimes when we talk to politicians, they'll say, well, I've done this and I've done this. Okay, what are you going to do next? What is the next big proponent or your next big initiative? How are you going to allocate funds toward that? Are you going to get the de Blasio administration involved? So what are the big ideas that we can have here? Not a think tank, a Bronx tank. How are we going to solve this? So let's get the people who are on the ground, let's take a grassroots initiative and tackle this. And that's what we're trying to show in this documentary, and that's when we interview the board president, we're going to ask, when you promised Barnes & Nobles would return, was that a broken promise or an opportunity for something greater? We hope it's the latter.
All right, Gregory, Edwin, thank you so much for sharing with us. The documentary is called 1.5 million, and we encourage you to visit it. Now, if you want to find out more about it, visit a BronxShortDocumentary.com. Once again, a BronxShortDocumentary.com, and you can find out about 1.5 million. Taking a quick break, we've got more open. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
And we are back here on Open. The New York State budget for fiscal year 2020 was agreed upon this weekend by Governor Cuomo, Speaker Hasty, and Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Now, what is included? How does it affect you? We talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the show, but joining us now via phone, discussing more, is editorial page editor of the New York Post, Michael Benjamin. And Mike, good to have you.
Good morning, Darren. Glad to be on.
Oh, glad to have you back, buddy. And listen, as we talk about the budget, obviously it's agreed upon in principle. Now the hard part, getting it passed all the way through. And when we talk about this here, we talk about MTA, we talk about, cuts that are possibly being made. What do you look at, and what do you see?
It's all been done. Now, remember, the budget is due on April 1st. It was all done the morning of April 1st. I believe The Senate passed the budget by 3 o'clock on the 1st, and the Assembly finished finalizing passage at 7 a.m. on Monday, April 1st.
Yeah, I misspoke on that one, but take me through this, though. As far as what we look as numbers are concerned, we talk about cuts and we talk about additions to the MTA. When we break down numbers, what are we seeing here?
You're not seeing cuts, actually. I mean, you're seeing a budget that increased about 2%. The state budget is now $175 billion. Only the state of California has a bigger state budget than New York does. Education aid went up almost 4%, where now the state is going to be spending $28 billion on state aid to education. There are a couple of interesting property taxes. They made the suburban property tax cap at 2% permanent, and now there'll be a 1 to 3% mansion tax on properties, homes selling for more than $1 million.
And we'll talk a little bit about the MTA. Obviously, more money coming towards the MTA. Good move here.
It's a good move, but a lot of it involves the state taking over New York City streets for congestion prices, and the city not really getting a share of that money. The money's going to go directly from the state to the MTA and reducing the state's share of what it pays to the MTA for revenue in funding. New York City is going to have to increase its contributions to the MTA's capital plans to get things done, and something that's unfair to the city. And those who live within the congestion pricing zone, which is below 61st Street, from what we understand, but there's no real plan. The congestion pricing plan authorized a commission that would look at a plan and then come up with, all the specifics, and then it will go into effect January of 2021, which is months after legislators have been reelected in 2020. So they inflated themselves many sort of backlash from congestion pricing fees that could be close to at least $19 to travel into Manhattan below 61st Street.
We've got the ban, I should say, on plastic bags. A lot to talk about with marijuana. I'll talk about that in a second. I want to get to, first of all, what stuck out to you by way of numbers? I mean, is there anything that really said, hey, in this budget, this is pretty impressive?
Well, what stuck out, I guess, would be the overall cost of budget, $175 billion. It keeps growing. There's very little effort to try to control growth and spending of the budget in New York. Education advocates continue to complain about education funding from the state being low, but almost $28 billion in new spending for state education is not pennies. It's really good money. We're not seeing the effects of that spending, and we're hoping that maybe in this next budget, as schools begin to roll it out and do things for students, that they'll better spend the money, particularly on those students who are not doing well, and in those school districts and those school communities that aren't doing well, so look to improve education and using those education dollars wisely.
When we look, this is first Democratic governor, state assembly, Senate going through in Albany. You got Republicans on the other side who are still saying there's some things that need to be done. Let's talk about the Republican side of the aisle for a minute. What do you see them edging for going forward?
Well, of course, they're the Republican side as opposed to the increases in taxes. Whether there is this property tax cap, there are other taxes that went up. Taxes on some small businesses, taxes on. I'm trying to get those again. This mansion tax and other taxes that go to funding more state spending than try to keep our spending in control. Republicans are always talking about trying to get small government, but when they're in charge, the government continues to grow as well. So they're not true to their principles. But I don't want to leave out that the budget also includes ending cash bail for most offenses except for violent felonies. But I think that's a good thing for New Yorkers, particularly those who don't wind up having to spend months, if not a year or two, at Rikers waiting for a trial. They've also looked to speed up trials, too, so that people don't spend those who are accused of a crime, they get to have their case adjudicated. Otherwise, the charges will have to be dropped. It could be problematic in places like the Bronx, where we've had this backlog of cases. They're going to need to get the judges to do their jobs, buckle down, and do many more cases than they're doing currently.
Yeah, $175 billion, a whole lot to break down. And, of course, Mike, we'll have to bring you back so we can take a little bit more
Please do.
Oh, yes, we do. We will. And so Mike Benjamin, our guest here on Open, breaking down a little bit of the New York State budget. Of course, we'll get him back. There's more to talk about. And we do have more to talk about here on Open. Taking a quick break. Stay with us. We're coming right back in a few.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
We're back here on Open. Cultural Innovation Group is a consulting agency with a mission to empower communities through art, civic, and community engagement. Here now to share a little bit more about the consulting group and arts and culture in the borough of the Bronx is Durell Cooper, founder of Cultural Innovation Group. And good to have you, man.
It's so good to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And as we talk a little bit about your agency, I mean, doing some great work, and you're bridging the gap. Talk to us about the gap that you're trying to bridge.
Well, there was a report that came out 2 years ago from the University of Pennsylvania called the Social Impact of the Arts Project. And in that report, they did a really comprehensive 2-year study to look at arts and culture all over the city of New York. And the results from that report, at the end of it, they were looking at boroughs and neighborhoods that they considered to be low resourced. And there were a number of Bronx neighborhoods that showed up on that list. I mean, that to some people, that may not be terribly surprising, but I think for Bronx residents, that should be alarming, because also in that report, what they did was link social well-being to the amount of arts and culture that's available to residents. And so when you look at a neighborhood, like for instance, Hunts Point, that showed up pretty low resourced on that list, you go, what can we do as citizens of New York City to be able to bring more arts and culture to this neighborhood and to this borough? And instead of just talking about it, I decided, it's really time to bridge this gap and actually start working with CBOs and government agencies to bring more arts and culture to the Bronx and other boroughs as well.
So let's talk about the journey. What's it been like and what's going on today?
Honestly, it's really about collaboration, which to some people, again, that may not be a huge sort of aha moment. But what I found is people are really willing to work together to be able to support the arts and culture ecosystem that's going on in New York City. I mean, for instance, the guest that you had on previously about the literacy, literacy is linked to poverty, but what this report showed is so is arts and culture or lack thereof in an area. When there's an absence of arts and culture in the neighborhood, there can also be, issues linked to health and other things as well. And so the more we can bring this in, the more overall well-being we're serving for people that live within those communities.
I know you've worked at Lincoln Centers before and, spent some considerable time at Lincoln Center working right down there. Very, very connected to the arts. When we talk about arts education, right? We look at schools, sometimes arts, education, music, sports, they're among the first things that get cut out of the budget. How do we counter this, and what do we do in terms of really trying to bridge that gap, specifically in the area of arts?
It's so interesting that you brought up you working at Lincoln Center. One thing that they do really well is advocate for themselves. And the biggest thing, to borrow like a line from Jonetta Betch-Cole, she says you have to educate, you have to advocate, and then sometimes you have to agitate. So all 51 council members in New York City are tasked with supporting arts and culture, and that's everywhere. And so, you know, you educate them, you advocate them, and then you agitate them. Get on the phone, talk to them, let them know what it is that you want to see for yourself and for your children. Because it's definitely possible. But again, a place like Lincoln Center, they've been advocating for themselves for a long time. And so it's time to give the power back to the people to be able to do the same.
So what do you have on the table right now?
Well, so I'm working on kind of a few different things. I just had a really great conversation with Rocky Bucano he's the executive director of the Universal Hip Hop Museum, which I'm super excited about coming to the Bronx. I've also been working with Maria Torres from the Point Community Development Center in Hunts Point. And so what we're really trying to do is look at different events that we can create in the Bronx that families can come out to. And so there's a number of different things that are sort of like up in the air right now, but hopefully very soon I'll be able to announce like things that somebody can actually come to at one of those things.
For people who want to get connected to you, what do they do?
Well, you can definitely go to my website, culturalinnovationsgroup.org, and then, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that's all there as well.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about advocacy and really being able to advocate and at the same time agitate. What is it when you're in that agitation mode that you want people to know in the area of arts that maybe the common person isn't missing and maybe we who even are very well versed have no clue about?
You know, the agitation phase, the biggest thing about it is it's going to feel uncomfortable. And that's okay. You know, I think about it all the time. You know, when a caterpillar is sort of like going into the cocoon, into like that chrysalis phase, is it really thinking I'm going to come out of this as a butterfly, or is it going, what am I doing? You know, it's uncomfortable, this growth, but at a certain point you're going to break through, and you just got to keep pushing up against that wall until that happens. You know, and I feel like, you know, I had a conversation with Viviana Bianchi, who's the executive director of the Bronx Council of the Arts, maybe about a month or two ago. And I was talking to her, I said, you know, the same sort of burning Bronx that sparked the hip hop revolution in the late 70s, I said, the Bronx is still burning. I said, it may not be the physical burning that we had back then, but it's a psychological and it's an emotional burning. And I think we're right at the precipice of being able to break through again into another cultural revolution, and I think it's on its way.
Durell Cooper, founder and CEO of Cultural Innovation Group. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Good to have you, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
All right, now, if you want to find out more, all you have to do is go to culturalinnovationsgroup.org, and you can get more from Durell there. Don't go anywhere. We still got more show coming up. We'll be right back right after this.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
And we are back here on Open. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center's Changing Futures program works with 1,000 Bronx children and families annually by offering them completely free long-term treatment services. This month, they'll be holding their Together Ending Abuse Lovingly, or T.E.A.L Gala. And joining us now to give us a little bit more of the details are Director Norris De Jesus Patron and Arturo Smith, Supervising Therapist at the Changing Futures program. And good to have you both here with us.
Morning.
And so congratulations, because I know this is the third year actually doing it. And for people who don't know a little bit about, walk us through.
So it's our third annual, as you said, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We actually call it Together Ending Abuse Lovingly because the color teal, and teal is for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And there we will provide awareness of what sexual assault is. Sometimes people may not know how to define it. Also support for survivors, and also to help the community come together and support each other about this topic.
In Arturo, for sexual assault, somebody defines it. You know, there are many different definitions in the minds of people, but how do we really classify sexual assault?
Well, sexual assault is primarily an anger crime, and it tears at the entire soul, at the very core of someone's being. So if you don't address the trauma that's caused by the sexual assault, then you're not really addressing the issue at hand. So,
yeah. And so addressing the issue is what you want to do. You want to aim for awareness, and we know that you've got domestic violence, sexual abuse, campus assault. These are some of the things that actually get the things that get talked about. Talk about the families that you work with, because you work with a lot of families every year.
Yes. Our survivors are as young as 3. And all the way to adulthood and adult survivors. We work with amazing families. Sometimes it's very hard to disclose the abuse. And I don't know if many people know that 90% of the time the people are sexually abused children is by somebody that they know. 40% is a family member. So when a sexual abuse occurs and is disclosed, it could, like my fellow colleague here said, it tears at the connection of the family. It tears at, it can ruin or hinder communication. So working with these families, we see the beauty that this family has. We see the strength that they have. It could be hurt because of what happened, but through the process of therapy, through the process of healing, they go back to being who they were, that strong and beautiful family with these beautiful cultures. It's a very diverse community.
We want to talk about therapy for a moment, because obviously it's very necessary. It's part of the healing process and really being able to move forward.
Right.
But we know in communities of color, when you talk about therapy is sometimes the bad word, right?
It is.
And we don't, and, you know, in other cultures, or I'll say, you know, in other cultures, they'll say, I'm going to my therapist. But when it comes to community of color, you're viewed upon as crazy. But give a little bit about therapy and the importance of it, and why it's necessary, especially after sexual assault.
well, it's necessary to get these feelings and what's ever being repressed out so that you can begin the healing process. Unless you have someone confront what's actually hurting them, then the healing process cannot begin. And it's funny that you mentioned the fact that it's kind of a taboo thing in our culture. However, I think with the Oprah Winfrey Network and the onset of the Iyanla Van Zandt series, it's bringing therapeutic interventions more into the light in our community, and it's not viewed as such a taboo as it used to be. So, and you know, getting our people to come in and talk about what's going on in the household. You know, there used to be a time your grandmother, oh, girl, don't you go out there and talk about what's going on in the house. And you know, getting those ideations out of the system, and getting, yeah, we do need to talk about that, into the system. That's the challenge that we face on a day-to-day basis, but they're coming along.
So what do we have coming up this month?
Well, this month we have the T.E.A.L Gala. We also have Denim Day, the Denim Day March. It's towards the later week of April. I don't have the actual date yet.
Okay,
and we're trying to do many tabling events as we continue to work towards this awareness during April. We do tabling events at the center, and we have a lot of programs. We have groups. We have safe date groups for teens. how to discuss healthy relationships, and groups for survivors such as Beyond Trauma for Women, where women can discuss with others about the trauma perhaps in their youth or in their relationships, sexual assault or domestic violence.
So we have an event, 4-hour event being hosted by Changing Futures program. And as we said, you talked about survivors being as young as 3 years old.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you say you have a few.
Yes. I myself had a client who was 4 years old, and it can be really hard to hear, especially when you see those cute little ones talking to you, and it's hard to imagine someone can do that. But I think the beauty is that the person is beginning the healing process. The beauty is that the person is also having the support from the program, from their parents, and eventually they can move forward from this. We don't move on, but we move forward.
Right. We'll continue to follow this all month long. And so thank you so much for coming, Norris, Arturo. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, to let you know again, Changing Futures program sexual awareness event, T.E.A.L Gala, is taking place on Thursday, April 18th from 3 to 7. Visit khcc-nyc.org for more information. Taking a quick break. We'll be back with more Open coming up right after this.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
Why don't you ever see elephants hiding in trees? Because they're really good at it. Yeah, I get it.
And we're back here on Open. Flourishing After Abuse is an upcoming event aiming to bring hope and inspiration to women and men through discussions on abuse, childhood trauma, mental health, and more. Joining us now to tell us a little bit more about it is Elsie Batista, co-founder of Flourishing After Abuse. And good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. So, for people who don't know a little bit about Flourishing After Abuse, tell me about how you got this started.
It's me, myself, and Linda, and we were just sitting in my living room one day because we went through an abusive relationship. So we were comparing notes, and we were like, "Wow, we just went through this abusive experience," and with her support, and we noticed with good support system, we got through the abuse and trauma. Like it was easier for us to overcome. So we were like, how can we help other people in our community who are also going through this but don't have the support system, or others don't really believe that you actually went through an abuse, because emotional abuse is something you can't really see versus physical. So that's how we came up with Flourishing After Abuse, and now we want to bring this to our community.
And so when you talk about having that conversation and the two of you guys being able to have that conversation, it felt good.
Yes.
And it felt like somebody else really had your back.
Yes.
So what is it that you want others to get after having this conversation, being connected with you?
We want to offer our support system to them. So we're starting a support group. They could reach us through social media and on our website, Flourishing After Abuse. And we just want to bring awareness and just inspire people and empower them, because it's hard when you don't have friends and family who believe that you actually went through an abuse.
So talk to me about some of the abuses that will be discussed. I know you talk about you got trauma.
Yes.
You got mental health.
Yes.
And then really you want to deal with some of the other things that really have crippled people by not being able to talk. Talk to me about being able to talk. And you said sitting down and talking and what that really meant. What do you think that's going to mean in the lives of other people?
When you start speaking and telling your truth, you feel it feels liberating. That you're not holding in all the hurt, and you see that once you start talking about the abuse, other people have been through it too, and you don't feel so alone or so depressed or just lonely.
Right. So listen, you got some help out there. People are going to have this discussion. You're invited to be a part of this very special event. Let them know when and where.
The event is going to be Sunday, April 7th from 2 to 5:30 at Mont Haven Bar and Grill. And you can find us there.
Between 2 to 5, you come on out to Mont Haven Bar and Grill, and you also have the opportunity to get a VIP ticket. And if you get a VIP ticket, there's some things that come along with that, and all you have to do is come on out. And so are you hoping that...
Everybody's going to get something.
There you go. Everybody gets some. Just show up. Right. Men, even a part of the conversation.
Yes, we want men to be a part of the conversation as well, because men are being abused as well. They just don't really speak about it. But me and Linda have been reaching out to other men, and they have told us they've been abused as well, emotionally abused. So we want to help them out too. This is for the community, men and women.
So men and women have the opportunity to come out to the Mont Haven Bar and Grill, talking a little bit about the issue of abuse, childhood trauma. And if you had to give advice to somebody about, speaking out and what it means, what advice would you give somebody?
I'm going to say speaking out does help you in your healing journey. And, one day you may have a good day, and then there's other days you may feel down, but just keep going, because there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Elsie Batista, founder of Flourishing After Abuse.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I know you're a little nervous, but it worked out.
Yes, I am.
Did we do all right?
Yes.
All right, that's cool. That's all I need to know. All right, now listen, if you want to find out more about them, all you have to do is follow them on Instagram at Flourishing After Abuse. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
And we're back here on Open. Boogie Down Grind Café is a community-owned and operated and the Bronx's first hip-hop coffee shop in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx, where the grind never stops. And here to tell us more about it is Majora Carter, owner of the Boogie Down Grind Café. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Co-owner,
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So, listen, talk to us about this because, to have a hip-hop cafe right here in our borough, the home of hip-hop.
Preach it.
What's it mean?
It means that we are paying homage, to the legacy that is culturally ours. As a South Bronx resident, I was born and raised in the 70s, so I was here when it happened, and we really just wanted some people to see that this is what it is. And so our wall was curated to really reflect the real seminal figures, in hip hop to begin with. There were even like flyers from some of the original old, jams that would happen on street corners. Oh, it was awesome. And so we're really excited, but what's really important is that this is a social gathering space for our community that is locally owned by families from the South Bronx. So it's not money coming into the community, then leaving it right away. It's like we employ locally and, we pay homage to the roots of our borough while we're creating, wealth and economic development within our space and providing a really beautiful space for people in our community to hang out in.
Talk to me about for community by community. What's that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's about community economic self-empowerment. It's about why is it that people in our own community are not actually owning the businesses that are there? Why are we often not even owning the homes that are there? This is one of our approach to real estate development is also about how do we inform our neighbors about really being a part of the process of creating development that is by us and for us so that we are the ultimate beneficiaries of it.
So talk to us about the menu. What can people get when they come by?
Well, this is all about, you can come and you can get a big panini.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's,
big panini.
Yeah,
right.
there
Gotcha,
you go. You can also get a Grandmaster Frappe. Yeah, so it's all about, but we also make sure that we provide healthy options as well. We even, for all of our big paninis, we actually sneak in almost a whole cup of servings of greens in it to make sure, because just in case people are not getting their daily recommended allowance of some vegetables, we're at least trying to help them along the way. We have a whole suite of non-dairy milks as well, so that you can really, and all of our baristas are specialty trained in really making sure that their whatever it is the best it's going to be.
So for people who want to know hours of operation?
So we are open during the week from 7 to 6, but we're going to be getting a wine and beer license, so that will be actually open till 11 pretty soon. And then on the weekend from 9 to 6. And I'm wearing this T-shirt here because as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, minority owned within the Bronx, one of the things that the Boogie Down Grind, along with Bronx Native, wanted to do was actually pay homage to the hustle that are women-owned businesses within the borough. So we created this campaign called La Bronx, and we're going to be releasing it on social media really soon on the last week in April, and on the 26th we're going to highlight an enormous bunch of women from the Bronx, all wearing the La Bronx shirts on social media and actually at an event at our space as well.
So when you talk about an entrepreneur, obviously this is an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur's dream come true, right? To be able to own in your own community, have your community come and support. For somebody out there watching right now who says, I have that vision of entrepreneurship, maybe even being a restaurant owner, doing that, what advice do you give them?
I mean, look,
or her, I should say.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm wearing the La Bronx T-shirt. Come on.
You.
But anyway, it's not always fun and games, but for the right type of person, like being your own boss is the real deal. But it also involves like really digging in a way that you need to be prepared for, because ultimately you are chief cook, bottle washer, you clean the toilets, you do the whole thing. But there is nothing like it, understanding, really understanding what your market is and creating a kind of quality product to support the people that are buying into what you want to sell them. I mean, it feels like such a gift, because it really is, to know that you've got customers that you really love and want to support. But you got to be all in if you want to do it.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get to this place of getting the cafe up and going, and from inception to...
I've been an urban revitalization strategist and developer for almost 20 years. It took, but to get the coffee shop up where it is now, about almost 3 years. Yeah, took some time.
So it takes a little time to get the thing going. So you have to allow yourself some patience, some time,
and depend on love and support of people. Make sure you're looking for the right resources to get it done. And I think most importantly, to actually really take care of yourself, pay attention to your emotional, physical, spiritual needs, and know that you're not in this up by yourself.
Right. You could have did a whole lot of different types of coffee shops, but you elected for hip hop.
Oh, well, initially when we first opened, it really was just like a really specialty coffee shop, because we got word from our community. We did a ton of focus groups and surveys to find out what people wanted. People just wanted a Wi-Fi cafe, the kind they'd find downtown. And so we did a really cute coffee shop. Our partner was Birch Coffee, who taught us all about specialty coffee. And it was really cute, distressed wood, exposed brick. And then it was just like, no, we need to expand this and put our own kind of, stamp on it. And we moved to a bigger space, and we host art projects there. Again, we really focused on really looking at our culture that is hip hop and really putting it in our space, and so for us to see and really embrace and know that it's ours to love. And we really love the idea that we're not only paying homage to it, but also just homage to the people in our community by having such a beautiful space that they come to appreciate.
So before we get out of here, tell people where to go, how to check you out.
Oh, we are in the Hunts Point section of the South Bronx, the Boogie Down Grind. We are on Hunts Point Avenue, 868 Hunts Point Avenue at Seneca, BoogieDownGrind.com, at Boogie Down Grind, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to give them.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's a problem.
Okay.
I'll finish it off if you
want.
want.
Thank you.
Majora, thanks a lot for coming. Majora Carter, our guest here, co-owner of the Boogie Down Grind Café. Now, listen, swing by the cafe. It is located at 868 Hunts Point Avenue. Also, you can check them out at BoogieDownGrindCafe.com, and you can find all the information you need to know. I want to let you know you come to the end of our show today. I want to thank our guests for joining us, but most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum's Channel 67. If you don't have that, you've got Verizon Files. Well, guess what? We're on Channel 33. I don't have that. Well, watch us on the web, bronxnet.org. Special shout out to all those watching on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is broadcast live simultaneously on the M&N channel. That about wraps it up for us here on the set of Open. I'm Daren Jaime. Got to give a shout out to my sister. Hey, Ann, what's up? Make sure you keep this channel wide open. Take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.